Welcome back to It's Only Money here on the radio. That's right. You can either be listening to 96.9 The Game or Real Radio 104.1. I'm Ryan from the Monsters in the Morning, and I'm not here alone. No, I am with financial wizards from Edgewater Family Wealth, Tammy and Scott Brown. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Buenos dias, amigo.
Oh, look who's gone full Cuban since
Full Espanol.
Yeah.
Oh. 8 days in Cuba, I am fluent.
You know what? I will say for the immersive part of going to a country, it does work.
Oh, yeah. There's nothing like it. I mean, whenever I go to a Central or South American country, or in this case, a Caribbean, Latin-type country, by the end of the week, I'm just getting in my groove, and then I leave.
Yep.
Fall completely apart after that.
I have this superpower where it's if I go and to another country, a Spanish-speaking country, if I start drinking, I will speak Spanish.
Yeah.
I mean, I took 6 years of Spanish in school. Rarely use it, but something about a couple of rums deep in the Dominican Republic, and Ryan's full on having conversations.
Full on Espanol.
Yeah.
Solamente Espanol, Ryan.
The question is, Ryan, do you remember what you said?
No, and the reason I know this is pointed out, I saw the bartender the next morning as they were setting up for their day bar shift, and then they just begin speaking to me in Spanish, and I have to go like, hey, I actually don't speak Spanish that well, and she's like, you were speaking fully fluent last night. I'm like, oh, that's
something in the rum.
It's good to know.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I once was in Miami. My cousin used to live in Miami. He was a mid student. And we got in a taxi once, and the taxi driver asked him, like, do you speak Spanish? In Spanish. I don't understand, but I'm like, trying to. And he said, something, poquito, which I think means little.
Little,
right,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, yeah. As far as I know, he doesn't. He's been.
Would you like a little cocaine? Is what he said.
And then for the rest of the journey to get to our destination, which was about 25 minutes, they were chatting in Spanish.
Oh, nice.
The entire time.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you mean little? Did you see what you were talking? So I think people kind of underestimate their abilities most of the time.
Well, I mean, lot of learning Spanish here in the States. It's not great, but you do learn enough to get by. You can have a simple conversation. You're not going to get deep into philosophy or anything. But
you can get a beer and find the bathroom.
And the biblioteca, yeah.
The biblioteca, si.
Yeah. But okay, so we are doing this show obviously from America, the United States version, and not the Latin one. As a person who works in finance, you work with money, you work in the capitalist culture.
That is me, yes, that's correct.
When you go to a socialist, communist country, I mean, what are your first thoughts?
Well, you have impressions, right? Like anybody, I think, that has grown up in the United States through the education system here and lived 58 years like I have. I mean, I think that, you have preconceived ideas of what you're going to see. And rarely is that correct. In any place I've ever been in the world, which is a fair amount of places, I've almost been exclusively wrong about what I thought about those people or how they lived or their culture or their economics. And that was somewhat true in Cuba. I mean, they do have a socialistic system, and I say socialistic. I don't know that it's exclusively socialist. I think there are elements of it that are socialist, clearly, but they do engage in their kind of own version of underground capitalism. And there is this economy that is the old Cuban, post-59 revolutionary Cuba that was influenced, obviously, by an allegiance with Russia, that produced this economy this is your rice, this is your bread, this is how much you get, this is what it costs kind of thing. But, there's a lot of American dollars, a lot of Canadian dollars, there's a lot of euros floating around that is now kind of that secondary, I would even argue maybe the primary driver of interactions, at least economically, for a lot of the citizens of Cuba. There are some private enterprises now in Cuba. They are tiptoeing very slowly, I think, in that direction. I think it's a long way off, but it is happening. I saw it. If you're there long enough and you're with the people long enough, eventually they start to talk about it a little bit. They're not jumping up and down and wanting you to video the conversation, but which I did, one of them. But the truth of the matter is that they get it. They get what we have. They get that when we show up, we got pockets full of cash, and they don't. But they're figuring it out. And I think the young people are seeing it a little bit, the internet, the tourism. Again, you're not putting that toothpaste back in the tube. When they hear the story, they understand the story. They have, most Cubans have relatives in the States and more specifically in Florida. My guide that I had for 8 days, almost all of his family's in Florida. So they're having those conversations. It's not lost on them. And their view of America is not hostile, I don't think. I mean, like any place, the governments, like we think, oh, it's not the people, it's the government that, and maybe a few of the people at the top of government that were like, I don't know about that person. And they feel the same way, and it doesn't matter who our person is, the red team or the blue team, they got issues. Right, but on average,
I view myself as the government, and we're one. That's why my laptop brand is Hunter Biden's brand laptop.
Yes, well, that is a growing laptop brand. Yeah. It's very popular on a certain network that I happen to be staring at right now. It's the 24-hour all Hunter Biden's laptop network. It's again, the people are wonderful. There's one thing I will tell you, having been to a lot of Latin American countries, is you cannot suppress that spirit. They are still enjoy family, they enjoy food, they enjoy each other, they enjoy music, they party, they drink their rum, they have their coffee in the afternoon. You can't suppress that spirit. And that's what I love about these countries is, no, I don't care what you call their system, socialism, capitalism, communism, democracy, whatever you want to label it as, the people are still pretty awesome. And we were embraced. They enjoy, they like Americans because we're tippers. There are certain countries ain't so good at tipping, and we're not one of them, thankfully. So they like to see us coming.
That's it's interesting because I was talking to somebody the other day when I went to go to Mexico, and you get all of the ideas on Mexico from TV and a lot of propaganda and stuff like that. So you have this idea when you go there of what Mexico's gonna be. And first thing, right out of the gate, I get off the plane, and I'm like, oh, everything's not a yellow hue here. Because whenever you see Mexico on TV,
it's yellow.
It's like a yellowy orange hue, so you know you're in Mexico.
Not true.
That honestly, it sounds stupid, but that was sort of the first thing I was like, oh, this just looks like Florida.
Right.
And then talking to like the Mexicans there, they were like, one guy was like, I don't know how you live in the United States with all the gun violence. And I was like, that's what we hear about you.
Yeah.
Do you not know?
Don't you know it's you with the gun violence?
Yeah. So traveling through Germany and everything, talking to French people, German people, their version of events and how things play out are very different. They've got a view on America and their views on whether it was Russia or whatever at the time. It was like it's all very different. But you see, it's like it's the people don't hate each other. Necessarily. You got a bunch of dumb people in power taking advantage of things, and that's how it's always been.
Everywhere. Always and everywhere. Yeah, I mean, that's my point, is the people are amazing. They're kind. Look, I say the same thing about every country I've ever been to, is people all want the same thing. They want to be understood. They want to be appreciated. They want to raise their family in peace and have some nominal amount of prosperity where they don't worry about eating. They don't worry about shelter. They want to go to their kids' weddings. They want to go to the birthday parties. They want to have a beer with their buddy, whatever. People all want the same things. It's governments that get in the way, and I'm not anti-government because, listen, we got to have governments or else it's anarchy. Sometimes with government it's anarchy, but we're doing the best we can, people. So the short of it is, economically, I think Cuba is, if I'm being honest, is a little better off. It's clean. And not better off than the U.S., but better off than other third world countries I've been to, quote unquote. It's fairly clean. There is no crime. You do not commit crimes in Cuba, my friend, or you will be disappeared. So it's clean, it's safe, relatively free of crime, and the people are very sweet. I do think they are trying to open up. I think there is a movement in that direction. And I think Cuba and the U.S., the relations there will probably look a lot different in the next 10 to 20 years.
Yeah, it just feels silly at this point.
It's very silly
to keep all of this going. But do you come back and you step back on American soil and you go, whew, thank goodness for capitalism, the best system in the world.
Well, I'll be, there are things that we take for granted with our air travel and our communications and our financial interactions and the ease of this. They get 40 hours of internet a month. Yes, a month. So they have to ration their internet. So
that's my TikTok per week.
Yes, I was going to say, I think my kids could go through that in a day. If somehow turn 24 into 40. But the reality is they have limited access to that, and they have to ration it. And when I asked to use what they call Wi-Fi, not Wi-Fi, but Wi-Fi, when you ask to use Wi-Fi, you have to ask them to turn it on, and they say, how long? And you say, could I have 30 minutes? And they say, how about 15? And you go, okay. And then you frantically try to communicate for 15 minutes, and then they shut you down. So the point I was making is that, don't get me wrong, when I got back to the good old US of A at Miami International, there were a lot of things that I was looking forward to doing that I couldn't do for 8 days.
Well, to our Cuban listeners, I hope you're using your Wi-Fi to download the podcast, which you can find at edgewaterfamilywealth.com. That's right. And that's for everybody, really. Go to edgewaterfamilywealth.com, and that's where you get the contact info for Scott and Tammy, all the past episodes, blogs, financial talks, all that kind of stuff. But we'll be right back with more It's Only Money. Welcome back to It's Only Money here on Real Radio 104.1 or 96.9 The Game. It's your choice. But either way, I'm here with Scott Brown and Tammy from Edgewater Family Wealth. And Scott just got back from Cuba. Those you might not know, Scott Brown is a motorcycle riding, financial wheeling and dealing guy at the same time. And you toured the country. You said you went from end to end on a motorcycle.
Not quite end to end, but most of Cuba, yes, on a motorcycle, from the beaches to the mountains and points beyond.
Okay, so I'm currently thinking about getting a motorcycle, and I wouldn't drive on like a lot of the roads here in town. What is it like on a Cuban cross-country trip?
Yeah, it's everything. It's a mixture of things from, they actually have an Autobahn, believe it or not, fashioned after the German Autobahn. Now, it's not as nice from what I understand. I've never been on the German Autobahn, but it's a big, wide freeway that has motorcycles going 90 miles an hour and cars going 100 miles an hour and horses going 5 miles an hour, all on the same Autobahn.
Whoa.
So that's fun. But they have that. They have nice roads. In Havana proper, the roads are pretty okay, not bad. Once you start to get outside of the larger cities, of which there are two, you get into the mountains, you get into basically one giant pothole. Then being on a semi-dirt bike, which is what we were on, a hybrid kind of street/dirt bike, is helpful because it's somewhat technical riding at that point, up the mountain and down the mountain. It's not terrible. Again, I've been in countries with worse roads than Cuba, and I would say on average they're better than many of them. But it can be interesting riding for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I know with your job, you're constantly analyzing risks and things like that, and so you can create money, create wealth.
Yeah.
But with a motorcycle, I mean, on paper,
yeah,
you're gonna go to Cuba.
Yeah.
You're gonna get on a motorcycle.
Yes, sir.
Which is sort of a dirt bike.
Yes.
The roads are only there sometimes.
Yes.
And you're gonna go the entire country.
Yeah.
Does not sound like a good plan.
It does not sound like a conservative investment strategy. Yeah, I'm 58 years old, and I don't ride as fast as I used to. In fact, I think I'm the slowest rider in my group now. They have to kind of pull over and take a nap and wait for me to show up now. But the reality is riding's like anything else. If you're thoughtful about it, you do stupid stuff's going to happen. But just like in investing, there's a conservative, thoughtful way to do it and a not so conservative, not so thoughtful way to do it. But I do it because it's a great way to see any place, whether it's the United States of America, of which there are many amazing places to ride in, a few that I've seen that are wonderful. It's just a great way to see a particular. Now, we were a spectacle, I will tell you that. So in Cuba, they don't have. We were riding BMW 700cc. I don't even remember the particular type of BMW it was, but it was a hybrid bike, and there were 12 of us. And we looked like stormtroopers coming through their town because they don't have motorcycles like that. And people literally were coming out of their houses to see what the heck was going on here. So that was kind of interesting. But yeah, on average, I don't think we're taking a ton of risk. If you're on a motorcycle, you're always taking some. But yeah, I'm as careful with that as I am with investing.
Now, are you helmet on or hair blown in the breeze?
Always helmet on. Always. I'm not one of those guys that thinks the helmet's. In fact, in Cuba, there's 0 tolerance. You have to wear a helmet.
Oh, really?
They don't give you a choice. You don't get to be an organ donor.
As
I like to call guys with no helmets.
Yeah, I need to do more research into Cuba because I think I would be like just blown away on like what I've got from it here. But I've been like to places that don't have motorcycle rules, like the Dominican Republic. They were slapping 4 people and a baby on a motorcycle.
Oh, that happens there too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
As long as the baby has a helmet.
There's nothing more humbling than you think, oh, look at me, I'm a great rider and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and then a family of 4 goes by you with a baby in the middle on a moped. You're like, oh, maybe I'm not so good after all.
It's impressive. So do you leave there with hope? You know, like is there a version of like, yeah, if we came in there and just kind of opened everything back up, I imagine investors had to be frothing at the bit at all times.
Yeah, and there is some private enterprise there. So we had this discussion, as you can imagine. There's 8 guys on a trip, all varying professions, from surgeons to me to business owners. It was a really neat group of folks. And we had these conversations. What we determined is your American brain, as you ride around Cuba, is like, oh, they could do this here, and they could put a Marriott there, and then there'd be some kind of what is that golf thing? The big golf thing. You could
Top
golf here, and you could put a 4 Seasons over there, and then you realize that would ruin everything we love about what we're seeing. Right? It's very authentic. We stayed in a lot of people's homes, which was fascinating. So your American brain goes one way, and then your selfish, I want to see it like it was 40 years ago brain kicks in too. So is there a middle ground? I probably. Would they like to see a middle ground? Probably. But answer your initial question, do I have hope? 100% I have hope. I mean, these are fabulous people. They have a great spirit for life. I think they understand life pretty well. Sometimes I think Americans, myself included, get kind of caught up in the consumerism and the capitalistic enterprise. I try to strike a balance, but we're maybe not as successful as I should be. So they get it, and they want the money, and they want the nice things, and they want to be more comfortable in air conditioning and all that kind of stuff. But I'd hate to see them lose what makes them so special. I don't think they will, even if we do invade with our Marriotts and our Topgolf.
Yeah, somehow we always think like, yeah, that'll fix it. That'll make it worse.
That will not fix it.
Now, when you plan for a vacation, do you willy-nilly it, or is all of your vacation stuff, being the planner, financial advisor that you are, is like, this is the fund over here, and we don't venture outside of that, or is it just like you allow space to kind of take it how it goes? You
mean financially?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Because that's a big trip to Cuba.
Yeah, it is. It's not cheap. I will tell you that. I have a budget, like anytime, my wife and I sit down, like, what do you want to spend? We're going here. What do you think that'll cost? Restaurants, food, flights, all that stuff. We do all that stuff like anybody else does. I have kind of a policy. If I can't do exactly what I want to do without worrying about it, I'm not doing it. Right? I mean, if that trip's makes me uncomfortable financially, potentially, I just won't do it. I'd rather do another trip where I'm like, I can afford to do this and have a lot of fun. And I don't want to not get the extra dessert, or I don't want to not get the stupid T-shirt that says I went here and all I got was a T-shirt. I want to enjoy them. I don't want to go, I can't look at that. I can't go to that museum, or I can't look at that piece of art, or I can't go on that zip line, or whatever the thing is, because my budget, I have to stick exactly to this penny pitching budget. And again, there are trips that my daughter's introduced to me that I went, we ain't doing that. That's crazy. We could buy a house for that money. So I don't do that trip, but I do the one where I can easily afford the flexibility.
Yeah, I've seen especially in my 20s, people would take these trips like with their significant other, and they'd be like, yeah, it's gonna be this much money, and I'm like, I know you.
Yeah.
that's all of your money.
Yes. Yeah.
And you're going to come back and you're going to feel that pain for the next year.
Mm-hmm.
But people do that.
Well, I do it at Christmas, right? I go nuts at Christmas, and then January shows up, and the credit card bill shows up, and they're like, how are we going to eat this year?
Even worse than the credit card bill. I have not been sucked into it yet, but they've tried. Is the buy here, pay here app, or the buy now, pay later app,
which is just silliness.
Okay, I don't know how they're making money on that, because the way they're pitching it is it's zero interest. And by the way, I saw some weird stat that like 49% of Americans have used it.
Yes.
And there's no interest. There's essentially small, no interest loans that
initially.
How does
no
so
different
eventually
than a
interest
credit
comes
card.
in?
Eventually, you have to pay. I mean, of course, and they're probably charging the vendor something, just like a credit card does. But so I've read some studies on these apps. You are likely to spend 20 to 25% more money using the app than you would if you spent cash or used a debit card.
Yeah, it feels like casino chips.
Because you're like, well, I was going to get a sweater and a pair of shoes, but I'm not really using my money right now, so I'm not using real money. So I'm going to get a sweater, a pair of shoes, and a pair of pants, right?
Because I deserve it.
And that's why the vendors love it. The vendors love it because they know you're more inclined to overspend. Because I mean, it ain't real money, right?
It is real money.
It is real money.
The story I was watching is like this lady goes into debt.
It ain't real money right this second, but in about 30 days, it's going to be very real money.
Oh, yeah, that one seems dangerous. When I was watching, this lady went like 11 grand in debt, like out of nowhere.
Yep.
And she's like, yeah, this rug, I normally wouldn't spend $700 on a rug, but I mean, they just let me do it.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's currently the worst financial move you could make in 2023. Hands down, I'm saying it, hot take.
There you go.
You know what the best financial move is, though?
What is that?
Going to EdgewaterFamilyWealth.com.
I saw that coming.
That's right. EdgewaterFamilyWealth.com is the website you go. You get a hold of these gentlemen to work with them. And also, we have links to past shows. There's blogs, financial talks with Tammy is on there for all the finheads. And we'll be back with more It's Only Money in just one moment. Welcome back to It's Only Money, and it is a beautiful day here because I'm with Scott and Tammy from Edgewater Family Wealth. You heard the bumper. EdgewaterFamilyWealth.com is that website to get a hold of these gentlemen, and also you can get all the past shows, blogs, financial talks, all of the things. And we've been talking about Scott and his trip to Cuba and, various financial stuff sprinkled in as well. But now it's time for the man, the myth, the legend, the guy with the numbers. Tammy's here, everybody, with those numbers.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. That's an intro.
Yeah, that's the best way to kick off a day, isn't it? It's going to be my ringtone on my phone. If it's not already on a Sunday.
I think last time I checked on iTunes, the Tammy's number song is number 3.
Oh,
yeah, just be slightly beat out. Beyonce just dropped an album, so yeah, there's that.
You can't compete with that. So to the numbers today. First thing I want to touch base on now. It is earnings season.
Yay!
Hey.
Love earnings season.
Oh, yeah, isn't that cool?
It's between football season and baseball season.
You have to have a season.
Yeah. Honestly, earnings season, too many games. Too many games.
It's a lot of games. They need to cut that season down.
Oh, yeah, and I heard somebody famous is going to retire from the season, the NFL season.
Oh, yeah. Wait, the GOAT?
Yeah, is that going to happen for real this time?
I don't know.
Who knows?
I couldn't be less interested.
Right, so earnings season, as we said, we were expecting gloom and doom, or not us in Edgewater, but in general,
we never expected.
We never did. Mm-hmm. We talked about it last week.
What's the opposite of gloom and doom?
Bright and shiny.
Bright and shiny.
Bright.
We're all about bright and shiny. Bright and shiny, happy people. Also an REM song.
Hey, yeah, nice, yeah.
You're welcome.
I like REM. It doesn't look as bad. However, when you see the what did they expect, the estimate for next quarter, it doesn't seem to be going the same way. But year-over-year growth in some sectors are better than other sectors, again, as expected. So for financials, for instance, we're seeing some struggle. And again, that's expected when you have people spending less. But when you see things like industry sector companies their earnings year over year are still growing.
Whose are?
Companies in the industrial sector.
Industrial sector. Okay.
Same goes for, I've seen here some utilities also. and that related directly to the inflation part, which we will talk about in a second. Now, the market, though, is going all green.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
It's all green?
It's all green after a Fed announcement, baby.
Green and we're all green? That means like we're not using any oil or anything that emits carbon?
I mean,
That.
That's different? That's a different thing?
I think that's a different thing.
That's a different
mostly the tech stocks.
thing?
Take stuff.
Gotcha. All right, so what's green?
So we're looking at the S&P, we're looking at the NASDAQ, we're looking at the Russell for the year, of course.
Yeah.
Some of them, like the Russell 2000, is double-digit year to date.
Really? And that's kind of the mid-cappy index.
Yeah, the Russell is the 2000 is mid-cap, small-cap kind of thing.
Yeah.
Usually those move a lot up or down.
Yeah, they got smoked last year.
Very much.
Yeah.
Last year it was negative 21%.
Yeah, that's a hole they got to dig out of, but we're digging.
So that on that part. Now, the GDP came out also positive, but the estimate for the next one doesn't seem to be as good. However, it is not as bad. Therefore, there's nothing to... Now, again, what we say last time, recession, yes or no, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Don't care. Not interested.
I've been telling myself that.
Yeah,
I
don't
tell
care.
people that. They look at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah.
But now there's an interesting thing called the National Financial Condition Index, and we don't want to go.
course.
Yeah.
we don't want
You
to.
know that one, don't you, Ryan?
Yeah. The NFCD.
Yeah.
TI? Also close.
Yeah, you're right.
Close enough.
So, not to talk in details about it, but it's mostly produced by the Federal Bank of Chicago. They monitor the financial conditions of the market. By that means how easy it is to borrow, is it good or bad, where we're heading. And then in a recession, usually, that itself should also always be down because, financial conditions are getting harder. But what we noticed here, not me, the guys in the Chicago Federal Bank, is that financial conditions right now are the same as in March 2022, just before the hike.
Yeah.
Which tells us that, well, there's still room to grow, but, and that's the pain is, the Fed needs to step in.
The Fed isn't going to back off if that continues to be the trend.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and which is historically not been great news for markets. Don't fight the Fed kind of thing.
Exactly.
So we this is one of those things where we're kind of hoping for bad news because it'll produce good news.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Here's where I get my real financial stuff from you guys, and then I'm on this forum called Wall Street Bets, which is just crazy people. Mostly it's them posting their ridiculous losses.
Is that the one on Reddit?
Yes.
Oh
yeah. And it's right now they're like they show all the little charts, and the charts went up yesterday. Like it goes up, and then it's always like, is it true that like the market always goes real big, real hot right before it falls apart?
I wouldn't say so.
Or is there like has there like been a flat level, just everything's kind of normal, and bam, suddenly the floor falls out?
I don't know.
There's no
pattern.
there's no always in the market. Sometimes the market
Well, these people are liars then.
Yeah, they are. So sometimes the market is boring and then it's bad. Sometimes the market's very excited and then it's bad. Sometimes it's bad and then it's good. Sometimes it's bad and then it's bad again. The markets are
Sounds
cyclical.
like my ex.
Yeah. Markets. Oh boy. Markets are cyclical. There is some truth to the fact that you can't have a drop unless you had a rise, I guess. But what happens is we reach these highs and then we drop down a little bit, then we reach new highs and then we drop. I mean, that's pretty common. But to say, well, just because the market was up 20%, now it's going to be down next year. No, it could be up 20% again for all we know. In fact, that's happened on a few occasions where we're up double digits and then the next year we're up double digits. So, I mean, the last decade or so has been filled with those periods where we've had repeated years of double-digit returns, just like from 2000 to 2010, we earned almost nothing in terms of stock growth, right? Growth in the indexes. They call it the lost decade for a reason. So, again, trying to figure out trends or where the cycle is, you should know there is a cycle, and you should also know you're not going to be able to predict when it's beginning and when it's ending.
It's like... But then there's the FOMO, Scott. I don't want to miss out. I feel like the wave is rising, but me being on the wave rising, does it make it fall?
Well, I don't know if you in particular
Me,
make
it seems to be me because I have what is the opposite of a Midas touch?
Yes, I don't know. I don't know. The Ryan touch, I think, is the opposite of the Midas touch.
Oh,
We
it's
told
bad.
you we're building the counter Ryan index, which is whatever you do, we're going to do. Build a fund that does the opposite.
Well, then that fund would do great
It
right
will
now.
do great. But, FOMO is a big problem for investors because they don't like to hear their buddy or their friend talking about something good they did. It's what, people talk about greed being the common problem in our economy. It's more envy. Like we're a little greedy, but the reality is you don't want to feel left out. And if your neighbor made a bunch of money, or at least they're telling you they made a bunch of money in a stock, you're like, oh, I don't want to hear that again. I'm going to go get that stock. So when he comes out, I'm going to tell him what I did, right? So, fear of missing out is a big problem for people because it leads to chasing. It leads to, that boat's leaving without me. I need to jump on it, whether it's a stock or a meme stock or a crypto situation. It's like you get tired of hearing it after a while. Like, oh, this guy said that and that gal said that, and I'm not doing any of that. So clearly I'm stupid and being left out. Nobody wants to feel that way. But I'll tell you, I've missed out on way more things than I haven't in my lifetime. I did not get the Microsoft IPO. I did not get the Amazon IPO. I also didn't get the Apple IPO. I did not get Bitcoin early. I did not buy Google when it came out. I did not buy Netflix when it came out. And I did not buy Facebook when it came out. Those are just a small sampling of the things I did not participate in. Yet, I think, to be fair, by most standards, I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
I'm doing okay. I'm not a billionaire, but I'm not starving either. And my retirement at this moment is not in doubt because I just did boring stuff. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care what I missed out on. What I care about is saving in a thoughtful manner and buying things, companies or the bonds of companies or the stocks of companies or the bonds of municipalities that I know are going to be here in 10 years. And by virtue of just being here in 10 years, I know that I'm going to make some dividends. I know that there's going to more than likely be some growth on Caterpillar or Microsoft or Apple or John Deere or Procter & Gamble, Coca-Cola. Yeah, these are all boring names. But you know what some of these names have in common? Warren Buffett owns them, right? So that guy seems to be okay at what he's doing. So again, this FOMO thing where you can't stand to hear your friend talk about their success in a stock. First of all, they may very well have had success in whatever they're talking about, but they're leaving out the part of the conversation where the other 5 they bought, they lost their behinds on. So first you got to know that because that's what people do. Mm-hmm. And then don't care. Good for you. Good for you, Ryan. You bought that thing and it went from $1 to $5 in a year. That's awesome. That is fantastic. I want nothing to do with it. I want to do what I do, and I want to do it for a long period of time.
That's cool. I'm gonna start investing in Coca-Cola, and I'll know when to invest when they come out with a new flavor, and I'm like, oh, that's a good.
Yeah, because classic Coke will never sell.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking Pepsi. It's I'll invest in Pepsi. Imagine being at the ground floor when Baja Blast came out. That's all I'm saying. There's ways to do this that you don't look at, Scott, because you're a smart man.
Yes, there's ways you can screw this up, too.
Well, if you don't want to screw it up, work with Edgewater Family Wealth. I was talking to a buddy of mine who owns a business, and I was like, do you have a finance guy? And he's like, no, why do I need that? I was like, well, all of the problems you just gave me on what you're dealing with your business and your future, you need it. Talking to you, Brett. EdgewaterFamilyWealth.com. That's the website you want to go to. And then we'll be right back with more It's Only Money here on your radio. Welcome back to It's Only Money here on your radio. I'm Ryan. I'm here with Scott Brown and Tammy with Edgewater Family Wealth. The EdgewaterFamilyWealth.com website is where you want to go to get a hold of these gentlemen. Very simple. Just type into your browser, EdgewaterFamilyWealth.com. And you guys are financial investors. And I'm never sure if I'm saying what do you call yourself, first of all? I'm a radio broadcaster.
Mm-hmm. Financial advisors.
Financial advisors.
I
Okay.
like guru is good. Guru's always, that's what it says
That
on my
sounds
shirt.
cool.
I have one of those gas station shirts with the name thing and it says guru on it. Yeah.
That sounds cool.
You can get that once, if you want to get Scott's book, it's called I've Never Made Anyone Rich. And Scott, you can call yourself the guru once you've made one person rich.
One person. I've got to find that person.
Yeah, you got to find that one person. It's not going to be me. I don't want to spoil you.
Yeah.
But you'll give me a good thing, and I'll ruin it.
Yes.
But I guess that's my question is because you've given me a lot of like advice and stuff over the time we've been doing this, and is the advice that you give your clients the same advice that you all use for yourselves when you're investing with your own portfolios? Or do you look at it differently?
No, I don't do anything I tell people to do. No, I'm just kidding.
I went, what?
Why would I do that?
I don't know. And this is me just guessing, but it's like maybe you got a secret sauce that's a little bit different. And because you know these really more technical things, you're like, well, I can get into upside down pineapple coin because I understand it, but I'm not going to tell Johnny Doctor over here to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think on average, no, we're doing exactly what we tell people to do. In fact, I own at least 2 of the portfolios that our clients own. Mm-hmm. So I eat my own cooking. I'm not a get rich quick kind of guy. I've been in the business 36 years. I built a business. I have an entrepreneurial, bent, and so I've taken my time to build thoroughly a business, and I put money I max out my 401k. I put money in my deferred comp program. I save money in municipal bonds. I do all of the things that I tell people they should do, and it's worked out for me. And it's worked out for me because 36 years went by, right? There were years where it wasn't going so good. I mean, if I'm being honest, I was just literally thinking this morning because, it's tax time, so you got to gather up all your junk. Yeah. You get your shoebox out, right? And I was thinking, I got to get my accountant my 401k statement. And then I thought, I don't know where that is. And I don't think I've looked at my 401k in over a year, right? And I have a loose idea of what's in there, but it's not like I'm going to change anything. I'm going to keep putting money in there into the things that I've purchased because they're long-term things. And the answer is, on average, I would say 90%. I can't speak for other advisors, but I personally do. Not only do I do what I tell people to do, but I have a financial advisor. So there's one of the advisors.
You got a financial advisor?
Double advisor.
Wow.
Advisor squared. And
an FAFA.
I'm a terrible client, by the way. But so I sit down with a friend of mine every year, and we go through my planning just like a client would go through planning with myself or Tammy, whoever it is at the team, because the cobbler's kids have no shoes kind of thing. I need somebody to force me to pay attention to real estate, things that we have, and a variety of business interests, and my stocks and bonds and all that. And if left to my own devices, I'll probably ignore it because I'm busy dealing with everybody else's money.
Yeah.
So I use a financial advisor who will more frequently than not say, hey, you got to stop doing that. And did you know you were doing this? And I'm like, oh, my God, I can't believe I'm doing that because I'm that guy. I'm the advisory guy. Right? Mm-hmm. So not only, again, do I buy the things, the stocks, the bonds, whatever it is, insurances, whatever the things are that I advise my clients to get, but I also use my own advisor because I think it's critical to get another set of eyes on whatever you're doing. That's the thing. It's like, I don't care what you're doing in life. I don't care if it's your health. I don't care if it's, raising children. I don't care if it's interacting with your spouse. I don't care what relationship it is. It's, for me anyway, I don't know how other people feel, but I feel like they should feel this way, which is it's always better to have somebody to talk to. A lot of times a client will come in and we won't do anything, but we'll talk for 2 hours. What are you doing in this part of your life? What are you doing with your business? What are you doing? And they just want to speak. I'm in several, I almost said support groups. That sounds weird. 12-step programs. But I'm in several groups like CEO groups and things like that because I'm in a group of like-minded people that can poke holes, and they often do, in things that I say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this with my business, or I'm thinking about doing this with my team, or I'm thinking about doing this with my family. And for somebody to say, that third thing you said? Yeah, that's idiotic. I need somebody to do that from time to time, right? So it's a really roundabout way to say, yes, we do, on average, almost all the things similarly to what we advise clients to. To be completely honest, there's probably a part of my portfolio that I do some wacky stuff with because of my access to information and my risk tolerance. It's really the wacky stuff's a byproduct of my risk tolerance, right? there's a part of my portfolio that I know is going to bounce around like a Super Bowl, and I'm okay with it. Most of my clients would struggle with that. Not all, and some of them do Super Bowl stuff, but on average, most people would struggle to stay in their seats if the bounce were in the wrong direction. But on average, yes, we're doing exactly what we recommend.
Now, do you and Tammy butt heads over like your financial strategies? Or is everybody on the same? Is just kind of everybody's on the same team? Because Tammy seems like if I'm you're wild motorcycling through Cuba guy. Your bouncy ball strategy on one part of your portfolio. Tammy, he's all numbers. He's all business.
He's all
baby.
business.
So are you guys sort of like an odd couple together, and it just all works?
I mean, we balance a lot of things, and we have an investment committee meeting.
We do.
So we sit down every month. We look up our strategies. We look at the economy. We look up what the objectives and what's the best approach, whether we need to change something or whether what we're doing is just fine.
Yeah, I think the relationship that Tammy and I have, so Tammy does all of our trading. He does all of our analytical stuff. I'm kind of the big picture guy. I might say, hey, I was talking to a client and we were talking about a design of a portfolio, and we feel like we need something that looks like this, that does this or that. And then he'll go back into his laboratory, shut the door for 24 hours, and come back out. His hair's all, well, if he had hair, it would be all disheveled.
It's all gone.
It's all gone.
This is why.
This is how it started. He had a full head of hair when he started. Look what I've done. But so, he goes back into his little laboratory, and he comes back out with ideas. And then we poke holes in the ideas and back test it and go back and forth until he comes up with something that I think makes sense for the clients.
Yeah, I wonder what people's like mental picture of what a financial advisor office is. Because I always had the image. I was like, it's probably like a stock trading floor. You guys are like in there and you're like, buy on the phone, ring, hello, buy, sell, buy. Yeah. And then, something comes on the news and you're like, oh no, we got to type it. But I mean, from your laughing, I'm assuming that's not the way that is at all.
Not exactly. No, it's a little more thought. We're not trading. Well, I mean, we are trading, but it's not a trading. We're not shouting orders at each other over, a loudspeaker or flinging paper into the air. It's a pretty orderly process.
Yeah, I would say so.
And again, there are so many elements of financial advising that people don't see. They don't know that he's, at 8:00 at night last night looking at a portfolio trying to figure out the tax implications of some trades we might do for some clients. They don't know that we've back-tested 40 different combinations of things over 100 years to see which one we think makes the most sense. They don't see these things. They don't have these conversations. They just know, here's 100,000, make it 2, that kind of thing. Or really, realistically, our clients say, hey, look, I've spent my life saving this $1 million or whatever the number is, and I need this to produce income. Statistically, what's the likelihood that this will work? I need $50,000 a year plus my Social Security. I need $83,420. What are the tax implications? Should I take it from my Roth? Should I take it from my traditional? That's part of it. And then what portfolio should I use? And should my 401k look like my retail brokerage account, or should they be different, and why? I could do this all day. The conversations that are had. So I think most people underestimate what's happening when they're not around. Because a lot of times you have a meeting with a client, their annual or semi-annual meeting, and they're in the office for an hour or two. Everything's great. We catch up on the grandkids. Maybe we have a cup of coffee. We talk about their business, whatever it is, and then they leave. And then they think, well, next year they'll think about me again. That's not how a good financial advisory practice works. They spend every day, every minute thinking about all of the clients and what we're doing and how it affects them. Because we don't have, if we have 300 households, we don't have 300 portfolios. We have half a dozen portfolios. So everybody's in one of them. So every day we're looking at the portfolio. So every day we're thinking about the client. Every day we're checking for too much cash. Every day we're checking to see if a client's overweighted in something they shouldn't be overweighted in. Every day we're checking to see Mrs. Jones needs $3,250 every month. Do we have enough cash on hand to get her through the year? And if so, why not? And what do we do about it? Every day we're running test after test after test to make sure that each portfolio and each client their individual needs are being met.
So, okay, I guess I always thought of it, like a doctor. You go to get a physical at a doctor, but you go to the doctor, the physical, you're like, hey, doc, how's it going? He's like, oh, good. How was your check note, liver?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then,
Yeah.
all right, have a good day. See you next year. And he never thinks about it again. But you guys are there. You're actively managing, people's, financial security and future at all times.
100%, because it's, believe it or not, it's stressful, right? Somebody has walked through, and this was lost on me when I was younger because I was just stupid and young, which go together quite frequently. And when I was younger, people would walk in with their life savings. I go, thank you very much. I'll invest that. It'll be great. See you later. And I didn't worry about it. Now, as I've aged and I'm getting closer to retirement age, I realize that this is no joke. These people are trusting you. I try to impress this upon my team. Someone has given you their life savings. Literally, it has taken their entire lives in many cases to get to where they are with this money. We cannot take this lightly. We can never rest for a second when we're looking over it.
That is a team you want to work with. Is Edgewater Family Wealth. .com is the website to get a hold of these gentlemen. Scott and Tammy will take care of you, and they're thinking about your money when you're not thinking about your money, and that's a good thing to do. They're not financial doctors. No, they're active financial advisors, advising that money, taking care of it, and doing what they need to do. If you want to get a hold again, EdgewaterFamilyWealth.com. Scott, Tammy.
Have a good Sunday.
Awesome.
All right, we'll see you next time on your radio with more It's Only Money.
Yeah, and clearly people are rich, right? Or wealthy. You don't have to be rich. I like the term wealthy better. I mean, to rich reminds me of like the Monopoly guy or something. But, there are people, there are regular people.
Now that guy I trust.
Yeah,
See, the problem, Scott, you don't have a monocle.
Monocle is, now, if you can meet a guy with a monocle, I mean, like, I'm all in.
What was his financial advice? He said buy Park Place?
Where is that?
Where is that? I can't find it.
Tune in to It's Only Money with Scott Brown from Edgewater Family Wealth, Sunday mornings at 7 on Real Radio 104.1. Raymond James Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Edgewater Family Wealth is not a broker-dealer, is independent of RJFS.